Hey guys, welcome to the 11.2 raid guide for Mistweaver. In this video we will go over stats, core abilities, talents and hero talents, as well as our tier set, gameplay, and some recommended UI elements. I have a full UI video out already if you're curious about how I'm set up. I go over add-ons, weak auras, and the hardware that I use. I also have my website, wayofthecrane.io, and currently this is mainly Mythic Plus content, but I do plan on having a raid page soon. You will be able to find all of the info in this guide in a written form, all relevant videos, tips, and a place where you can order a VOD or log review. Haste is our highest secondary stat. It provides us with a quicker global cooldown, faster cast, an increased hot tick rate, and a lower cooldown on certain abilities like Rising Sun Kick and Renewing Mist. Haste also increases the speed at which you drink your mana tea. Critical Strike provides increased damage and healing, as well as contribution to our mana tea generation, which becomes quite important this tier due to our high amount of casting and mana consumption. Versatility is increased damage and healing a little bit, and that has some survivability scaling on things like Chi Cocoon and Life Cocoon, but in Raid this is not something that we are focusing on getting. Mastery is our lowest prio stat, as it is mostly spot healing, and it does contribute to the strength of Chi-Ji somewhat because Chi-Ji is mastery based, but we are not looking to play Chi-Ji this season as it looks like Yu'lon is going to be way stronger, so as little mastery as possible is ideal. Our mastery is procced by many abilities as you can see listed here, but Gust of Mist is not going to be very high up in our healing breakdown in Raid. Vivify is one of our main healing abilities in Raid, both the single target aspect as well as the AoE healing from Invigorating Mist, commonly known as Vivify Cleave. Vivacious Vivification is a talent on our class tree that causes Rising Sun Kick to make our next Vivify a bit stronger and be an instant cast. This is something we will play around quite a bit, so we don't spend a lot of time actually casting Vivify, but we do end up using it for spot healing as needed. Renewing Mist is another key part of our raid healing, and we'll basically be using this on cooldown. We do not want to ever sit at 3 stacks because so much of our healing is tied to effects that Renewing Mist enables for us. Zen Pulse is another part of the Renewing Mist and Vivify system where you will proc these from your Renewing Mist that you get naturally during your rotation, and it's just some additional healing for Vivify and Renewing Mist targets. Enveloping Mist is one of our key abilities during our Celestial rotation that will help with not only the Celestial healing itself and in that window, but it will also help us roll our healing post-Celestial window. Shaylin's Gift is a heal, but in Raid it primarily functions as a tool to proc our Xiaoha's Lessons and Jade Serpent blessing buffs. We will get into this a little bit more when we go into the Yu'lon window as well as our tier set. Expel Harm doesn't have much interaction beyond itself, but it is a high prio button for self-healing. Rushing Wind Kick is one of our most important abilities in Raid as it heals on use. It will extend our hots through Rising Mist, it will proc new hots through Rapid Diffusion, increase the healing that Renewing Mist does through the Rushing Winds buff, and provide cooldown reduction on Renewing Mist when using Pool of Mist. So this is really impactful for our healing overall. Mana Tea is how we manage our mana. As we spend our mana, we will gain stacks of Mana Tea that we can drink to restore our mana pool. For a period of time after drinking, we will also gain reduced mana costs on spells. For Thunder Focus Tea, there's a few different things at play here. After using Thunder Focus Tea, you will gain the use of an empowered ability, and you can see the effects for each spell on the tooltip. In Raid, our primary use is for Renewing Mist for the haste buff that it provides through Secret Infusion, as well as the increased duration on that Renewing Mist. And this tier, due to the Conduit of the Celestials tier set, Thunder Focus Tea will also proc Jade Serpent's Blessing, which is a buff that we are aiming for high uptime on during a raid encounter. Taking a look at our talents, our class tree is mostly utility, so it doesn't change a lot. You can swap a few points here and there if you need a certain Dispel or Soothes, but generally this tree does not change. For the spec tree, this is the standard raid build. Yu'lon with Jade Bond, which is the longer duration Celestial, Rushing Wind Kick, Mending Proliferation, Rising Mist, as well as Shaylin's Gift with Xiaoha's Lessons for buffs. For this build, the gameplay revolves around maintaining high Renewing Mist counts, making sure that you're not overcapping on your Renewing Mist cooldown, and utilizing the Rushing Winds buff to buff the healing. We are also playing around cooldown reduction from the tier set in order to continuously heal with the help of the Renewing Mist system, Enveloping Mist and Mending Proliferation with hero talent interactions, as well as the cooldown reduction on that end. You can swap the Uplifted Spirits off of Refreshment if needed, but if mana is a concern, then stay with Refreshment. Conduit of the Celestials is our hero talent for this tier. From this, you gain an active ability called Celestial Conduit, and then 2 important passive abilities that we'll go over. Celestial Conduit is an active channeled ability that will also proc your passive buffs, but when you are casting this, you are going to be doing some healing and some damage, and you can also use other abilities that do not do damage or healing, like your Kick, Roll, Dispel, and Stop. Heart of the Jade Serpent is one of the main powers of Conduit of the Celestials, and this is one of the passive buffs. For this ability, you will get some cooldown reduction on some of our most impactful abilities through Shaylin's Gift and due to our tier set, Thunder Focus Tea. So before using your ability that triggers Heart of the Jade Serpent, you want to make sure that you have Life Cocoon, Rushing Wind Kick, and Renewing Mist all on cooldown. Strength of the Black Ox is the other buff that's very important for Conduit of the Celestials, and using these procs just gives small shields that are consumed through Enveloping Mist, and it just provides some spot healing. For our Conduit tier set, you can see that Thunder Focus Tea will now trigger Heart of the Jade Serpent just as Shaylin's Gift does, and Heart of the Jade Serpent with the 4-piece will give you 10% haste for the duration of the buff. With the haste and the additional cooldown reduction, this makes Mistweaver a very high APM spec in Raid. Our goal is to stack the Shaylin's Gift version and the Thunder Focus Tea version of the buffs during high burst damage to make use of the haste and the cooldown reduction, but if there's not high and fast incoming damage, then we aim to split them up for more even healing spread. Yu'lon is our main raid cooldown, and it does have a rotation attached to it. Even though it'll likely be assigned to a certain point in the fight, this is how you use it. This is what a standard Yu'lon window will look like. Before you're using Yu'lon, you will use Shaylin's Gift for your buff, or you will use Thunder Focus Tea with Renewing Mist. Either way, whichever buff you use first, you will use the opposite buff near the end of the window. This rotation is built around spreading Enveloping Mist to heal through Enveloping Mist, Enveloping Breath, and Mending Proliferation. You'll also be using Rushing Wind Kick to extend the HOTS through Rising Mist, as well as gaining your Rushing Wind buff to buff your Renewing Mist healing. And during all of this, you also want to make sure that you are not overcapping on your Renewing Mist stat. Outside of your Celestials, you do have a little bit of a spell priority. Of course, Preventing Death is number 1, and this is usually in the form of spot healing with Vivify. Hitting your cooldown assignments is also one of the most important factors. Usually Revival, Celestial Conduit, and Yu'lon are assigned, and depending on the fight, Life Cocoon may also have an assignment. The Rushing Winds buff is very important, and we will want to keep that up as much as possible, which means Rushing Wind Kick is a high priority button. Renewing Mist should also be used often enough to avoid overcapping your stacks. Enveloping Mist should be used with a Strength of the Black Ox proc, and lastly Vivify just for filler healing. For buff tracking, any HOTS or absorbs are just on my frames, which I think is probably the best way to go about it. And for actual buff tracking for myself, there's quite a few to look at, but the most important ones are the Shaylin's Gift Clouds, Yu'lon's Uptime, Strength of the Black Ox procs, Rushing Wind, and Jade Serpent's Blessing. I track all of these either through a weakcore or an add-on, and I do have my UI available if you're interested in that. Otherwise, I would just recommend finding some way to keep track of these buffs. These are just some additional resources. Wayofthecrane.io is my website, and it's mostly Mythic Plus stuff, but I do plan to have a TLDR for raid content. Peak of Serenity is the Monk class Discord, and there is also my Discord available. QuestionablyEpic.com will have Swuggle's written raid guide, which I would highly recommend checking out, and you can also find Questionably Epic Live for gearing help. And Swirl has a new website called WaitI'mRamping.com, which you can find a bunch of analysis and planning tools. And that is all for today. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to comment or ask while I'm live on Twitch or on YouTube. Thanks for watching!